All right, Planning and Development, Counselor Andrus.
Here.
Counselor Waltney. Counselor Wolverton. Counselor Sims.
Here.
Counselor Nels. Here. So you just have Waltney absent, so you have a quorum for present.
Thank you. Okay, I'll begin with a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from the meeting of January 23rd.
Motion.
Okay, motion from Counselor Wolverton, second from Counselor Sims. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 4-0. Okay, we have no old business, so we'll start with new business 120323 public hearing set for April 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. for consideration to approve a text amendment to the city's zoning ordinance for the West Homewood District. The Planning Commission heard this last week or 2 weeks ago. We had a vote of 9-0 for a favorable recommendation. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Counselor. So these two will kind of be like wrapped up into one package. And Tom Walker is going to present. So the text amendment, the first one, the text amendment, the second one, let's start with that one, is for the final development plan. And then the text amendment is to allow townhomes in the West Homewood District. If the site is over 3.5 acres, and if it also has a multi-use facility on it. So there has to be a commercial retail component and multifamily on top of that. And if all those conditions
If
are
it's
met, we would
3.5
allow.
acres.
It's 3.5 acres.
Yeah,
We allow townhomes. So there are no other sites over there currently that are that size.
Any questions on that text amendment? Okay.
Just
Go ahead.
logistics.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we send this out like right before that public hearing, or are you planning on sending it out to council to sit on the agenda till vote? You feel what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, we talked about last week. Originally, it was discussed that the text amendment would go next week, but the notion, it seemed, was that they should both come the same night, since they're intertwined and related.
we have another council meeting between now and then, so I was just trying to figure out.
So, I mean, from my experience, we've done rezonings both ways.
Okay.
And final development ways.
So let's go on the council agenda and be carried over.
I mean, that's the way we
They were
always
going to have two
decide.
separate, the text amendment has to come first,
Yeah.
but the notice for the final development plan, because we had to do a mail out to all the residents that touched it, we weren't going to have time to do that we had to make it the 24th. So we originally had the text amendment for the meeting before that, but then President White wanted to do them both at the same time. They were going to be at opposite meetings.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were going to originally have the text one on the 10th, because we couldn't do the other one without time for the mail out on the 24th. But he wanted to leave it and have both of them on the 24th, which is why they're both on the same.
Okay.
But the text amendment has to come first before the vote on the final development plan.
That answers my question.
Right, Mr. Kendrick? Okay.
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom?
Okay, do you want to go ahead and move that out? We can go ahead and make a motion on that right now, can't we?
Well, yeah, you can.
Right? Yeah, unless anyone,
Unless you don't want to
I
discuss
would
it.
entertain a motion.
We're just moving to send it out without recommendation, right?
The text amendment, I would entertain a motion to move that out
That's
without
what I would do.
recommendation.
So Wolverton's making that
Okay.
motion?
Second.
All right, Wolverton, second from Counselor Sims. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 4-0. Okay, y'all. Okay, Tom, the next item, 130323, public hearing set for April 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. for consideration to approve a final development plan for 195 Oxmoor Road and 536 Cobb Street. The applicant is Village Creek Development, and the owner is as well. This is for the proposed redevelopment of the Econo Lodge Motel property as the site of a new mixed-use development comprising a combination of residential and retail uses. Again, the Planning Commission had a vote of 9-0 for a favorable recommendation. And Tom will get signed in.
Did nobody speak to the other one? It was just Kale?
It was just Kale because
Okay.
it was just a procedural on our
Okay.
end.
Not just Kale, but you didn't have to sign in.
It was just Kale.
Wasn't just you. I didn't mean it like that.
Just simply Kale.
The awesome Kale.
Which item number is this?
You don't have to
This
say
is
that.
130323.
I got it. Just here we go.
All right, how are y'all? My name is Tom Walker. I'm the president of Village Creek Development. With me tonight, I've got Shoal Engineering, James Parsons, and Jess Sirkin, and Kyle D'Agostino. They're our design team for this project. This project has been a long time coming. I've actually been into Planning and Development Committee too to talk about a development plan for this parcel down here. You guys will remember this is the Albritton Dennis parcel. So we've come through, again, this has sort of been our plan from the get-go and what we really wanted to set out and accomplish, and really appreciate all the work that the city's gone through with us to help us figure out where we are today. Just to sort of acclimate you guys with the site, this is Oxmoor Road, the Chevron's here, Nexus Fitness is here, and so what we're proposing doing is combining the parcels with a resurvey. That's been done, but it's contingent on us actually buying the property. And then these two items passing city council as well. But we'll combine the parcels, demo the site, which really is going to be primarily demolishing the existing Econo Lodge Hotel, and then the Albritton Dennis building here as well. And then we'll come back, and what we're building is a 10,000 square foot floor print mixed use building. The zoning requires that 50% of the frontage along Oxmoor Road be a commercial building. So we've done that. We have we're at lease with two tenants, Paramount and El Barrio, to be our tenants to go into the ground floor of that space. Inside of that space, previously what we've shown you guys is that it would have an arcade and a little bump out right here, but I think luckily what we've come to find out is that we're going to be able to fit that inside the building on this side, so you'll have a cool arcade kind of drive by when you drive by the building. Still working through that. Kyle's in charge of doing that, but I think that helps us from a couple of reasons. One, it makes the building way more efficient, and two, it helps us with our parking as well. So we have an 10,000 square foot building here, and then we'll have 18 loft-style rental units above it. They're 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. They stack up 3 floors total. The way that we progress through, we have parking for the retail here and here. And then this is an outdoor hangout area. When I was at Sloss Real Estate, I did the Back 40 Birmingham project for them. And this area we think is really important to the success of the businesses. And one of the things we heard a lot from within the community was that they wanted more hangout spaces, right? And this would definitely be a public hangout space that would be centered around this retail, but also something that people in the neighborhood could enjoy.
How big is that green space?
What's that?
How big is that green space?
Kyle, do you remember how big the green space is off the top of your head?
5,000?
Yeah, I think it's like 7,000 now, and it'll be bigger when we don't have the arcade there. All right, and then so flowing through the project, these are townhomes. There's 48 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom townhomes, and there's 3 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom townhomes. And the way this works is that as you drive around in the project, pretty much everywhere there's a road is really the back side of the townhome, or the vehicular access side of the townhome. And then the other side will be the front door, so to speak. So what I think is a really cool way that this project was laid out is that there's this green space in the front of all of these buildings that go around this main center of the donut. And so they'll all look out onto the green space and interact in a very community, theme. We also maintain a pedestrian connectivity line through the site to get over to Cobb Street, where we're adding all new hardscape and landscaping along Cobb Street now, as it doesn't exist today. So you'll see as we kind of continue on, each townhouse, all but 4-3, have a garage and an off-street parking space attached to it or assigned to it. So we're actually pretty significantly overparked on our townhouses. Generally speaking, we don't have amenities in this project like a normal multifamily project would have. What we're really trying to do is drive a sense of community, and we're building these as what I would call what a more for-sale product would look like. So high-end finishes, stainless steel appliances, stone countertops. That's really the way we've approached it. And so we don't have, for instance, pickleball courts in the middle of it or a pool, because we don't feel like we need that. It's really a quality of life kind of project. I know that I've talked through this with some of you, and it might have been long enough ago that we have a lot more questions, but I think really what I'd just like to do is sort of open it up to you guys and answer any questions y'all have about it. These are some of the renderings. Brian, if you go back to the beginning of the renderings. Actually, if you go back to the picture of the Econo Lodge, just so we can remind everyone what's there today.
We don't want a big one.
One of the things that I think is important in this, though, realistically, if you notice how much of the Econo Lodge site is impermeable today,
Yeah.
And it all drains, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but it drains to right here. There's a drain. And it's stopped up. It's not well maintained. It's on private land. It's not the city's fault. But the new plan that Shoal has drawn for our stormwater management plan will soften it tremendously. So I think we're going from, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like something like 95% impermeable to 70% impermeable, something like that. So yeah, and the pool has been filled in. We're carrying a contingency in our demo contract as to what we're going to find when we tear the pool out. Anyway, as you see, we'll get all that out of there. Brian, if you'll keep going, just one. This is a rendering sort of looking off of Oxmoor. The city's working with us to allow us to do angle parking here, so this rendering doesn't actually show that. But it does do what I think is a nice job of showing how the green space will interact with the retail and then have the townhouses back behind there. And next one, Brian. This is another view that sort of shows the green spaces and how it will interact with Oxmoor. One more. This is what the townhouses will look like. So the common green space that I talked about with you guys, this is really the front doors of the buildings. We feel really good about the way that the project itself lays out, but also about the aesthetic of the townhouses themselves. Kyle likes the rendering at night, so we can always include it. One more, Brian. This is actually the elevation and the rendering looking off of Cobb Street. So if you guys are familiar with walking down Cobb Street now, there's no sidewalk. It generally has 2 or 3 people walking down the middle of the road with a dog or kids. We had a couple of residents actually speak out about the need for this in connecting into Gillian because they didn't like the idea of their children walking unaccompanied around the Econo-Lodge to go to the Chevron for snacks or drink or anything like that. And then this is a nice job. It shows sort of what the vehicular or backside of the houses look like. So you see there's the garage, there's the off-street park. There is a back door, and then there will be an entry into the project, into the townhouse from the garage as well. One more, Brian. Just to talk through a little bit about plans. The downstairs, like I said, there's a doorway in, powder room down under the stairs, and then we have living room, dining room, kitchen all downstairs. So the idea there is that if you're in your living space, you're in your living space, and then when you go upstairs, it's much more focused on sleeping. So you have bedroom 2, bedroom 3, and a Jack and Jill bathroom. The laundry room's upstairs, which we thought was a pretty great idea from the ability to keep whoever the laundry servicer is from going up and down the stairs all day. And then the master bedroom has a really nice big master bed, master bathroom, and then a closet over here as well that has a window that looks out over it. This is the elevation of the multi-use building. It's actually shown as 3 spaces right here because this is before we sort of came up with the idea of putting the arcade on this side. But what'll be really cool about this is that this will be the El Barrio side, the Oxmoor corner. This is the where the arcade will be right here. So you can imagine 40 pinball machines and cool Ninja Turtle video game machines and kids playing those all right there. And then this will be Paramount off on the backside over here. This is the layout of the loft units. So this is Oxmoor Road on this side with the balcony here. You'll have living space and the kitchen space all sort of merged into one. And then you'll have laundry room, bedroom 2, and then the main larger bedroom will be over here with another larger bath next to it. This is just included really as part of our resurvey application, but it just shows really what our new parcel will be once it's combined. And I think that's good. Does anybody have, how would y'all progress? I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have, happy to talk through any of the, anything you all want to talk about.
Questions? You were saying that they're initially rentals.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you envision that you would put them on the market? Are y'all going to manage them? Or
No, ma'am. Arlington Properties is going to be our manager. Arlington Properties manages around 3,000 units from our business partner, Wicker Park Capital Management. They're probably one of the largest multifamily management groups in the Southeast. And they're who's going to manage this for us.
Okay, so no plans to try to sell them?
We're building them in a way that if we decide to do that one day, we can. But right now, we're not contemplating them. We're not going to have them as for sale units.
And the reason that I asked that is that we've had a situation, a smaller number of units that started out as townhouses, rental houses, and then they sold. And no HOA was ever formed. And I just want to, kind of bring that up, that I would hope that that would be something that the city, does the city get involved in that at all?
Not if you zone it for residential, for rental. It's apartments.
Is there a way, okay. I mean, that's a real problem if there's no HOA formed and then those units get sold, connecting units.
HOA is homeowner association.
I know what that
Yes,
is.
ma'am. I would tell you, so our total budget on this project is around $33 million. There's not really any buyers or anyone that I know of that would be able to put together the opportunity to buy this from us at a higher number than that, that wouldn't have an institutional real estate manager managing the real estate for them. It wouldn't work. That's not to say that it can't be that way in the future. And again, if we did dissolve it into an HOA, there would still be still into a condominiumized product. There would definitely be the need for us to establish an HOA because we still have common areas within the property that would need to be managed,
Okay.
and we have retail space that would need to be managed as well.
Well, that's just something that's come up in the past and, we can't really help with, we have a hard time helping with issues and the owners can't come together to form the HOA for whatever reason. So that's good that there
I
are
don't
common
think it would get
areas that.
financed. If I were to go and sell these off individually, I don't think it would be able to be financed that way without, I don't think I would be able to sell them without there being some sort of HOA in order to avoid that.
So if you were to sell in the future, you'd pretty much have to decide you're gonna sell all of the units.
Probably, that's right. And the retail. I mean, the retail is the hardest part about this project. We were very lucky to get interest out of the groups that we got interest from. But retail in general right now is a really hard thing to do in commercial real estate.
Tom, some of the units appeared to be one level, is that correct?
No.
Or are they all two level?
They're all two level.
So they're all, okay. When you went to that second to last slide, I couldn't really tell. Okay.
What's that? The lofts? No, I'm sorry. The lofts are all one level. The lofts are ground floor retail.
So the
Brian, if we go to that elevation of that commercial building, so one level retail, one level lofts, two level lofts, right? 2 levels of.
Two levels
Okay, two
of
levels
lofts.
of lofts. And will that be an elevator?
There is.
Will there
There's
be an elevator in that
here.
space? Okay. I was just just looking at the overall development, I was just wondering if any consideration was being given to making the design of some of the spaces, accessible with like 0-degree entry and, just door widths and so forth. Because there's been some discussion in the community about a need for, just, good design, and I didn't know if a percentage of the units would be designed in a manner which would be accessible.
They are, and it's the majority of them. They'll be in this building.
Okay.
There's a chance that we figure out how to put 1 or 2 of the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhouses as ADA accessible. But we engage an ADA accessibility consultant as part of our process to make sure that the product we're putting forward is accessible on a macro basis. So actually, one of the things that's really one of the hardest parts about this is that this building slopes 7 feet from this corner to this corner. And so, in doing so, Kyle is having to come up with creative ways to be able to maintain ADA access, but at the same time not have this sitting in a hole or this sitting on a hill. So it's something we're working on, but we have a consultant that we're working with to make sure that happens. But these will all be ADA accessible.
Fantastic. Thanks.
What else? What other questions?
So I know the parking, and I know we left about a month ago to go to a community meeting. So I know that you've listened to community feedback. I was just going to ask where do we stand on the angled parking along Oxmoor there?
I mean, it's on our plan that we've submitted, and that's what my understanding is that that's what we need to do. Right? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's right. So I think,
This part.
I don't remember how many we used to show.
9.
We used to have 9, and then there was concern for parking, right? And so their design team, Jason Jesper and Kyle basically laid out a plan for angled parking, which is what they've shown on their development plan.
And that looks like an increase of five spots.
And not to get in the weeds, but for their parking counts, they can only include half of the parking spaces.
Because it's
consider it.
public in the right of way, sure. Yeah, so obviously that's a new drawing from what I saw a month ago or so. And I know parking was probably the most prominent thing that was brought up at that meeting. So I think obviously it's helpful that you've made changes to adjust, and I do remember the West Homewood District kind of master plan, including angled parking along Oxmoor, kind of all up and down from where GMP3 is, all the way up. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's opportunities as this all goes down here. There's opportunity for more of this.
And what's the two up at the top
These,
there?
these are gonna be the manager parking spaces. This is the service
Okay.
court.
Okay.
So it's deep enough for an 18-wheeler to come in and access and be able to drop off food service, and then also pull the dumpsters as well, which we thought was important. And again, this is why I like working with the operators on the front end of these projects, is that I wouldn't have done that without them telling me to do that.
Need the
right?
logistics.
But they would have been unloading it right here or over
They would be
here.
taking 7 parking spaces, blocking access to 2 parking lots, is that what you're saying?
I know.
And for
But anyways,
24
that's
hours?
that's where that'll all occur. Service.
Gotcha.
And also, let me, I guess, point out that Tom's team had a traffic consultant provide a traffic report, and we had it checked by our consultant. So there weren't any recommendations to be made to traffic patterns or signal retimings or any of that. Because it basically all checks out, because the main entrance for the development is far enough away from the signal at Oxmoor and Oxmoor.
It's actually kind of, since that'll be service drop in, that's not really an access point like it
That's
is
right.
currently.
Yeah. And there will be signage and all that.
Yeah. Well, in all likelihood, there will be a chain or something that goes across that to keep folks from parking in it, and to make sure, at least during peak loading times, which in Birmingham varies greatly.
Sure.
Have y'all talked about an estimated number of additional kids?
To the schools?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. So we engaged a group called ARC Specialists, ARK Specialists. The guy's name is Sam Lee, and he's really a data engineer. And what we did with that, we went out and pulled in sort of 2 different ways. We went and pulled macro census data, and then we also went in and pulled more specific census data to almost on a neighborhood and more granular basis to very similar districts like Homewood and West Homewood. And he put together a model. So basically, it's a statistical model, and it was all based off forecasts. So there's, if you remember back to stats, there's standard variation between the line and what they would be. We took that report to Dr. Hefner and presented him with it as far as what we thought the number of students were. And I'll let him. He asked me specifically to allow you all to communicate directly with him on that, and not necessarily for me to be the one speaking about it. In order to avoid any kind of miscommunication or any kind of inconsistencies in how we communicate. But I felt like the meeting went really well, and I think I would encourage you, if you have any comments or questions, to ask him about it.
Ask him about the number of additional students that
Yes,
were
ma'am.
estimated? Okay, you don't even
It's
share
like
that
50.
number?
It's like 50 at most, probably 50 to 55 is what the numbers were, if I'm remembering correctly. A lot of the data showed that in these types of projects, it's what they call renters by choice. Where folks are selling their houses and they want to remain in the community, or they want to be close into nice food and beverage, those types of options, walkability. And so it's not as many as you think it is. And the case study is Lane Park at Mount Brook. I think there are 20 kids right now on school ledgers in Mountain Brook City Schools that live in Lane Park.
Well,
How
that's
many-
not within walking distance to a school, probably. I mean, I wouldn't consider Lane Park, that's more in a real commercial area, where this is sort of on the edge of a neighborhood, or it feels that way. But I mean, I hear you, but 48 3-bedrooms, and only an estimate of 50,
50 to 55.
and then another
And they're not all at the elementary school, they're
Sure.
distributed across all.
Sure.
Well, I will say from the 6 townhouses that showed up on the corner of Raleigh and Oak Grove, I believe there are 0 of them that
0
have
kids.
students that are in the school system right now. So I think, I think obviously there's a demographic here, and it sounds like there will be a demographic spread of, young and possibly older, and some families in between. I think you didn't really kind of touch on price point tonight.
So we're carrying in the mid $2,000 a month for the townhomes and the low 2,000s for the lofts generally, but it'll be very much market driven. I mean,
Sure.
We're very excited about it. There's not really anything like this in the city, and we've had a ton of positive feedback from prospective renters, but also from community members, people who are excited, one, about what we're taking away, and then two, about what we're adding as far as the vibrancy of the restaurants in the neighborhood. We feel like it's been received very, very warmly, and we have really not gotten much direct negative feedback to me about it. In our planning commission meeting, I think we had probably 5 people that spoke, probably another 15 in the crowd that were prepared to speak in support. And I think we had 55 emails of support for it.
I actually had 2 letters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's actually more, because there were some that got to me or to Carlos that we didn't have time to even send.
Well, I've actually had 4 in favor from Ward 5. So I had 2 of my constituents reach out in favor of this project.
Gotcha.
I've had people text me too. So it's positive.
Yeah. The only other thing I think is important, since not everybody's heard it, and unless it's changed, I mean, I'd certainly enjoy an update, but I know you talked about the permeable, impermeable, but just lastly, speaking to neighborhood concerns about runoff and watershed and those things, I do think, again, what makes this process unique for me, at least, is that Tom's been talking to people for a long time. I haven't been in most of those meetings, but it sounds like a lot of those things have at least been attempted to kind of capture in the project and take.
Yeah, and James can talk about
Take
this
concerns
more
apart.
as much detail as we want to get into tonight. But I mean, the gist of it is that every single raindrop that falls on this site is supposed to go down a drain right there, somehow, right? And whether it be that if you look at the site, you can kind of see it here. There's a pretty significant slope up from the driveway up into the parking area and then to the building itself. Excuse me. But it's supposed to really drain this way and come down and all get in here. And it is not. And even if it worked flawlessly and it was very well maintained, there would be problems, especially during heavy rains. And so the feedback from the residents that I see is that it overflows and it runs through the back side of the site here. And it makes Miss Sarris's yard wet, and all of these houses as well, right? So I understand where they're coming from. What I will tell you is, and we can get as specific as we want to about it tonight, but this will be an all-new stormwater management system that goes onto this site, right? It's this site and this site. And in my experience in dealing with real estate development, the more you try to patch and Band-Aid stormwater issues, the more they pop up down the way, right? I mean, as soon as you fix one here and you fix one down the way. And so on this site, if you were to go and try to just add another one or clean it out, probably wouldn't do what you needed it to do to fix the entire macro issue. But by coming in and adding an entire new system to the site, I mean, it couldn't be in a better position to improve it. Is that fair?
And one additional thing is we're going to distribute the stormwater, so not intended to be a pun, but it's currently a very economical storm drainage design where it's all surface drained with land, so there's an inlet control problem with water. The inlet can't
Control the volume.
So it pools up and spills over like Tom was talking about, so we're going to distribute that. There's, it might be directions messed up on the southeast corner of the site just south of this office, there's a stormwater line that ends there, so we're considering extending that just about 50 feet or so, 100 feet, and taking sort of the run along Cobb there. We'll add, because what we found is that we think that pipe that it currently goes in is like one size too small for the size of the site, so
Sure.
we'll take some to Cobb. The majority will still go where it goes today, and then some out to Oxmoor. There's an inlet just north of Nexus that is there to tie some of that into. So we're going to try to take some load off of the area that goes today, but just simply having a significant amount more impervious area is going to help.
And then you are leaving vegetative buffer in that general area as well. Is that right?
Which are
That kind of backs up to the backyards of the neighbors that
Yeah.
have asked about.
Yeah.
That's the same question.
Yeah.
This is, so there's the Dennis parcel, Dennis office parcel. This is the buffer that we put in,
Okay.
which we did I don't think the code requires us to do that, but we did that because we felt like that was the right thing to do for the neighborhood. Kyle lives over there, and he was very insistent that we do that.
I would move to send out without recommendation.
Okay, a motion
Oh.
from, yeah, just look at my list and see who's on the committee. Counselor Wolverton, second from Counselor Nelms. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes 4-0. Okay, we'll see you,
On the 24th. Be right next door.
with that, we are.